Good morning. Hey, Alan. Whoa, what you doing? How are you feeling? You good? Morning. Morning, Becca. Morning, Amanda. I'm making coffee. You're free? You're free. Today's the day. Today's the day. You free? That's so beautiful. You guys, everybody give a round of applause to Miss Ellen Marsh. Good morning. We're making coffee. If Ellen was here, I would make her a celebratory coffee. She is not here, but I will be with her in less than a month. And I will bring her a Diet Coke. Specifically one from McDonald's. Because if you don't know this about Ellen, Ellen is specifically into Diet Cokes out of the soda machine at McDonald's. Am I right, Ellen? That's the one that you want? You want the Diet Coke out of the soda machine at McDonald's specifically, right? Yeah, see, I know things. See, I know stuff about my friends. I know the most obscure specific things about them. So I will bring her a celebratory Diet Coke from the fountain. I don't know, I don't drink soda, so I don't have any knowledge base for it, but I will buy it for her. It's a gift. It's a celebratory gift. I love the multiple milk creamers and the coffee. I'm the same. Yes, I am a multiple milks kind of person, and I hate to tell you this, but I am still a real milk person. I still drink real milk. Oh, their serve ratio accounts for ice. Leave it to Grace, our scientist, to know the answer to this. That's amazing. I didn't know that, but I like it. Morning, Tressa. I didn't know that, Grace. Makes sense. It's the same reason that I make coffee ice cubes for my iced coffee, because I don't want it to water down my iced coffee. You know what I mean? Yeah. Them's the facts, friends. Them's the facts. I make hot coffee and chill it. That's good too. Yeah, I do that as well. But I like ice cubes. I'm a big fan of ice cubes. Big ice cube fan. It's a little bit gloomy here today, you guys. Doesn't look like California out there. Oh, you can't see that. Hold on, let me see if I can get you a better. Nope, that didn't do it either. Oop. Anyway, it's gloomy. It's a gloomy day. It's a gloomy, gloomy day. Coffee cubes are the best. I was raised on coffee cubes and everyone thought my mom was nuts. Your mom was not nuts. Your mom was correct. And yes, it is the best. Ninja coffee bar brew over ice. If it actually brew over ice, it's too watery. Yep, mine too. There's a brew over ice setting. Oh, fudge muffins. Man, oh man. Yep. I spilled. It just isn't the same with non-dairy milk. I agree. I know. I agree. I like my dairy milk. I do like it. And now I'm gonna clean up my mess that I made with my milk. Can you do slime tricks with clear slime? Yes, absolutely you can. 100% yes. Yes. Oh yeah, no problem. I'm happy to have that how-to playlist for you guys. I think it's a little bit of a necessity. Twinkle, twinkle, little star in their room. That's amazing. I love that. I'm about to make a cup of coffee for the second time in the morning. Yes, do it. Do it, do it, do it.
Do what?
She's making her second cup of coffee while I make us our first cups of coffee. Means Shara's been up a while.
That's okay.
What?
That's okay.
We're gonna have pizza for lunch. I wish I could have a second cup of coffee. Why can't you have a second cup of coffee? I need to have coffee with rum chata. Rum chata. Were you up because of James, or were you up? Hey, Tiffany, were you up because of James, or were you up for a different reason? What do we think is going on here? What do we think this piece is?
I like it.
Yeah, really?
But
Not done yet.
You're not?
No?
Oh, okay.
I will give it to you when I'm done. Don't come on camera. That was very close. You almost did it. Yeah. Don't do it. I'll come off camera for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, he does get up early. I have no idea what happened yesterday or who or what she was called. That's funny.
What is?
They realized that you almost accidentally stepped on camera. They were just laughing. They said you're very sweet. Sorry, I have to do this so that it doesn't get gunky. Okay, here's your coffee. Enjoy. I'm gonna go read a book. I love reading books. I don't really understand the banana thing, Liz. Can someone explain the banana thing? I also love Play Rehearsal. And I didn't like that musical, but that song was fun. It's just super fun baseball. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm glad it was amazing, but I don't get it. They just dance to songs while they play. That's funny. Savannah Banana baseball team like the Harlem Globetrotters. Oh, cool. Cheers. Okay. Let's get into it because we have a busy day today. So they're so fun and they're not bad to look at either. All right. All right. I'm going to shut the door because he's listening to something. He's listening to some kind of sports podcast, and I don't want to hear it. Most states have something like it. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So, let's read this next chapter. And this is a surprise to me as much as I think it will be to you. This one is called Derek. So this is from Derek's perspective, you guys. Calling oneself a witch, possessing the ability to cast spells and or performing magic does not make one a true witch. Only proof of descent from a known witch makes one a true witch. Rule number 1 of the 9 rules, World Council of Witches. From a moment, Derek was convinced Jessica had spotted him, even though he'd chosen his hiding place with care, and then he cast not 1 but 2 protection spells around his vehicle to keep her from noticing him. She didn't strike him as a woman who would take kindly to being followed, even if he was only doing it to protect her. But she certainly wasn't making it easy, sitting on her friend's porch and discussing the situation loudly enough for the whole world to hear while under the influence of alcohol, no less. Everyone who knew him knew well that Derek liked a glass of whiskey or 2 every now and then, but never when there was work to be done. And there was plenty of work to be done right now. Not that anyone in this pretentious little village seemed to realize it. Derek had never been anywhere with so many one-way street signs directing people to the sea, which actually turned out to be the Long Island Sound, and so virtually without waves, and organic coffee shops designed to look like English cottages. Maybe that's why everyone in West Harbor was so pretentious. They were all over-caffeinated. Everyone except Jessica Gold, that is. She was nothing like Derek had been expecting. He'd done his homework. She had an active and lively social media presence, as one might expect for someone who owned a clothing boutique, but the video of Jessica vamping around her shop's latest fashions hadn't prepared him for the reality of meeting her in person. The riot of black curls that framed her heart-shaped face, the pink bow of a shaped mouth, or most distractingly of all, the liquid depth of those large brown eyes, her big, happy laugh. Why hadn't anyone warned him that the woman upon whom the success of this mission depended had a laugh that made his knees feel unsteady, a face that was the perfect shape for cupping in his hands, and a taste for miniature chocolate bars? None of this was sitting well with him. None of this was right. None of this. The car he was tailing pulled into the driveway of a cheery yellow cottage, a mere block from the public beach. Jessica got out of the passenger's side. "Good night," she called to her loud friend. "Thanks for the ride." The friend said something indistinguishable and then drove away. Jessica climbed the steps to the front porch of her cottage. Unlike the yards of her neighbors, hers didn't have a single jack-o'-lantern, or scarecrow, or a sheet hung to look like a ghost, or a fake gravestone. The front of her shop downtown had been tastefully decorated with artificial gold leaves to celebrate both the season and its owner's last name, but there was no sign that Halloween was approaching outside her home, at least until she reached the front door, when a black cat leaped from the tidily stacked woodpile and met her, arching its back in a joyful greeting. "Pie," he heard Jessica say in an affectionate tone, and then she reached into her bag for her keys. She did, indeed, lock her own front door, despite what the rest of the residents of West Harbor might do, and that cat rubbed itself against her legs. "Good boy. Did you have a nice day? What did you get up to? Are you ready for dinner?" He saw the cat's mouth open and close in reply, a pink flash, a mew too high-pitched for him to hear from where he sat, and then both Jessica and her cat disappeared through the front door into the warm, brightly lit house. A second later, the porch light flickered off, and Derek was left alone in the darkness of her road, watching for the shadows of a threat. Only his cell phone rang. He glanced at the number on the screen and rolled his eyes and then answered it. "What?" "And a good evening to you, too," the caller said, sounding amused. "Why so surly?" "Because I'm in West Harbor, Connecticut." Derek felt a wave of anger for having gotten himself into this position in the first place. May the goddess forgive him. "Am I supposed to be happy about it?" "Oh, I don't know. I can think of a few reasons why you might be happy, but I'm glad that you did follow my advice." "Advice?" he grunted. "Pretty sure it was an order." "It was advice. In any case, how is it?" "Well, it's not exactly how you said it would be." "Really?" The caller sounded mildly curious. "How so?" "All right, bye, Tressa." Because Jessica Gold is warm and beautiful and funny and trusts him even though she shouldn't. But of course he couldn't say any of that. "Well, first of all, because you said it was so damned urgent that I'd get here right away," he said. "I flew here instead of riding, so I had to rent a car when I arrived, because it was something called leaf peeping season. All the decent-sized options were taken." The caller laughed. "Aw, poor you." "Yeah, well, I'm glad you find it funny, because I don't. All the hotel rooms are booked, too, so unless a place opens up soon, I'm going to be sleeping in this car." The caller's voice sharpened. "You aren't supposed to be sleeping at all. You're supposed to be protecting her." "And I will," Derek said.
but it's a little hard when you won't let me tell her the truth. Just stick to the plan. The caller's voice softened. If you stick to the plan, everything should work out fine. Derek didn't express his doubts about that. The plan had been made before he'd known that Jessica Gold had skin that looked as soft as silk and eyes that sparkled like fireworks when she laughed, and how much he liked the sound of that laughter. How does she seem? The caller surprised him by asking. When Derek replied, he kept his tone carefully neutral. Good, a little confused, possibly a little bit frightened, but willing to take on the not the Gold woman, the caller said. The other one. Oh. Of course, Derek cleared his throat as he watched the blue light flicker in one of the rooms of Jessica's cottage. She had turned on the television. He wondered what she was watching, and then he found that he didn't care. Whatever it was, he wished he was inside watching it with her, preferably on a wide, soft bed, but a couch would be fine too. I haven't seen the other one yet. Will she be ready in time, do you think? The caller's voice was unsteady. I don't know. Derek surprised himself with the honesty of his answer. He watched the blue light in Jessica's house dance and wave. She'll have to be, won't she? Yes, said the voice on the other end of the line, sounding sadder than he had ever heard it. We have no choice. Dun dun dun. Jessica. Journal entry from 2006. Always remember what thou give to thy neighbor will be returned to thee threefold. Goody Fletcher, Book of Useful Household Tips. I know what you did, Rosalie said. I don't know what you mean. I wasn't lying either. A lot had happened since that terrible day that I'd found out Billy intended to give up his college scholarship to follow me to New York. I'd headed straight home from school and consulted Goody Fletcher's book on how to reverse a love spell. I'd spent the next few weeks carrying the tip of a turnip root around in my bra. I cleaned the entire house from top to bottom, and to the surprise delight of my parents, to encourage the removal of all negative energy, as well as lit a candle and left it to burn overnight in a plate where it was unlikely to catch any curtains on fire. I was wishing Billy's ardor for me would melt away like the candle wax. I even wrote his name on a slip of paper and stuck it in the freezer, since we didn't have an ice house, all while patiently explaining to Billy over and over that while I still wanted to be friends, I was no longer interested in a romantic relationship, and he needed to go to Notre Dame in the fall like he'd planned and live his best life. None of it worked. Billy still stubbornly showed up almost every night to throw pebbles at my window, and when I pretended to be asleep, he sobbed and called my name until I finally gave up and came downstairs to meet him. The last thing I needed was him waking up my parents, not to mention the neighbors. I had dark circles and bags under my eyes from lack of sleep. My grades had taken a massive nosedive, and I put on a ton of extra weight from all the Snickers bars I was comfort eating. My parents were planning a huge 18th birthday party for me at Mama Giovanni's on Saturday night, not my actual birthday, which fell on Valentine's Day the following Tuesday, and I was afraid to invite anyone except my closest friends, since I knew if Billy found out about it, he was going to show up and ruin it. Obviously, Rosalie had seen the existential angst on my face, sensed something was up, and followed me into the girls' room to do battle. You know exactly what I mean. She was so angry she'd forgotten to snap the gum she habitually chewed. I know you used a love spell on Billy Walker because there's no way he, of all people, would ever fall for a hot mess like you. First of all, I said, snagging a paper towel to dry my hands from the dispenser. I hoped she could see that my fingers were shaking. I hope she couldn't see that my fingers were shaking. The name-calling is unnecessary. And second of all, this is Connecticut. Where would I even get a love spell? Cut the bullshit, Jessica. Rosalie's lip gloss, like everything else about her, looked perfect. She was right. There was no way, except through the use of witchcraft, that a big slob like me should have gotten Billy Walker over her. It defied the laws of nature and the natural order of things. I know when someone's screwing around with magic. My 11th great-grandmother was accused of witchcraft right here in Connecticut. She would have been hanged for it, too, if she hadn't been rich enough to bribe the judge to banish her instead. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Wow. So, does that mean you're a witch, too? What do you think? Rosalie sent me a withering look. Okay, so Rosalie Hopkins, cheerleader, president of the senior class, and shoo-in for prom queen, was a witch. But maybe, just maybe, this was the answer to my prayers. Okay, then I'll level with you. I tossed my wad of paper towel into the trash behind her. Unlike my mom who ran antique stores downtown, I threw away things that I didn't need as quickly as possible. My mom bought this book at an estate sale. It was amongst a bunch of other old books. It turned out to be a book of spells. There's a love spell or two in it, and I did use one on Billy. But now, Rosalie's mouth had dropped open, revealing her pink tongue and even pinker gum. You have a grimoire? I guess. I don't know. Is that what it is? Rosalie looked towards the fluorescent lights overhead, seeming to fight for patience. I cannot believe that you, of all people, have a grimoire. When you don't even know what one is, you better give it to me. What? Rosalie had always been entitled and rude. She'd been at my 6th birthday party too, along with Billy, and demanded that I give her my new Barbie ballerina. But this seemed a little too much, even for her. No. You've got to, Jess. For your own good. You clearly don't know what you're doing. You know Billy gave up his scholarship to Notre Dame, right? I nodded, swallowing painfully. I don't understand it. I've done every binding and banishing spell. I don't get why none of them are working. There are binding spells in there? Look, you need to give me this book. Let me buy it off you. How much do you want for it? She reached into her bulky, overloaded, patent leather Marc Jacobs tote for her wallet. I only have $200 on me, but I can go to the cash machine after school and get more. Rosalie! I couldn't believe this was happening. It was only 3rd period. I wasn't even fully awake yet. Maybe I was still dreaming. The book is not for sale. Don't be dumb, Jess. I know your parents don't have that kind of money, the kind of money that mine do. Let me take Billy off your hands by doing the love spell myself, so he'll fall for me and leave you alone. This is a win-win situation for both of us. I stared at her. She sounded exactly like her dad, Ken Hopkins of the Hopkins Luxury Motors, on the commercial that played endlessly between the segments on the local news. I was operating on zero sleep, but suddenly I did almost feel as if I'd found a solution to my problem. Or had I? I don't know if that's the best idea, Rosalie, I said. Look how that spell turned out. I gestured to my reflection. I hadn't even bothered unbraiding my hair that morning, let alone putting on makeup. I looked like a human-sized Raggedy Ann doll. I'm not happy. Billy's not happy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Of course the spell didn't work right for you, Rosalie sneered. You're not descended from an actual witch. I am. Magic is in my blood. I was confused. So, she said with exaggerated patience, haven't you ever heard of the 9 rules? When I stared blankly, she went on, of the World Council of Witches established in 1983? Okay, well, let me enlighten you then. Rule number 1 is only someone descended from a witch can perform actual magic that works. Suddenly, all of my tiredness faded. I not only no longer felt tempted to take Rosalie up on her offer, I felt the hair on the back of my neck rise. I'd never heard of the World Council of Witches or the 9 rules up until that very moment. I was surprised to learn that there was some secret witch society that Rosalie Hopkins belonged to, but I never knew existed. No, I wasn't surprised. But was I pissed about it? Yeah. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, I said, and it isn't true. Who made up that dumb rule? Rosalie looked bored and tossed her smooth, shiny hair. I don't know, Jessica. I don't make the rules, but I do know that amateurs shouldn't be playing around with forces that they don't understand. Look what happened to you when you did. So hand over the book to someone who knows what she's doing, someone who isn't a cottage witch. I blinked at her. What's a cottage witch? You. Someone who just messes around with herbs and things in her house and ruins lives. She said it like she didn't know that women around the world had been using herbs and other plants to heal and nourish themselves for thousands and thousands of years. It was weird that she didn't know that. Hadn't she researched the history of witchcraft? And then it hit me, of course she hadn't. She was descended from witches. When the first rule is only that a true witch is one who's descended from a witch, why bother learning anything else? That wasn't the only problem with Rosalie's rules. The other problem, at least for her, well, they didn't apply to me. Magic is for everyone, I said stubbornly, even so-called cottage witches. Oh yeah? Then why did your little spell go so disastrously wrong? I don't know. I began moving towards the exit, but I do think giving the book to you isn't a good idea. I think I should probably hang on to it and keep it safe. I mean, if a simple cottage witch like me could cast a spell from it as powerful as the one that made Billy fall in love with me, maybe it should just be destroyed. Rosalie's face fell. Wait, no, don't do that. That's not... I had no intention of destroying Goody Fletcher's book, but Rosalie didn't need to know that. And I think we should leave Billy alone, too. Rosalie, her expression stunned, stepped in front of me, blocking my path. What do you mean, leave Billy alone? I mean, neither of us should do any more spells on him. Maybe he'll work things out for himself if we just let him be. Work things out for himself? Rosalie looked shocked. She stopped chewing her gum again. Why would I want him to work things out for himself? Billy and I were meant to be together. Do you know who his father is? Billy's father was Will Walker of Walker Hardware. There were 7 locations in the tri-state area, and everyone I knew owned a snow shovel that they bought at Walker's. A Walker and Hopkins union would form one of the wealthiest family dynasties in West Harbor history, possibly all of Connecticut. Billy and I would be together by now if you hadn't come along with your stupid cottage magic and ruined things, Rosalie went on. But fortunately, I know how to fix it. Just give me the book, I'll do the spell, and take him off your hands. And in a week, it will be like none of this ever happened, and everything will go back to normal. I thought about it. I had to admit the idea was tempting. To be able to sleep through the night again, to have good grades again, to see Billy laughing and being the sweet guy he'd been before any of this happened, yeah, I thought about it. But for only a second. No, I said and shook my head. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. What about Billy? What about him? Shouldn't he have a say in this? Like, if this whole thing has taught me anything, it's that human beings have the right to their own autonomy and they should be free to love who they want to love without the interference of magic. Rosalie snorted. She actually snorted. Oh, please. Boys like Billy need witches like me to tell them what to do so that they don't make dumb decisions that will screw up the rest of their lives like he's doing right now. So just hand over the book and I'll clean up the massive mess that you made and everything will be all right. But I still hesitated. Alarms were sounding in my head and in my gut, and something was telling me that giving this book to Rosalie Hopkins would be a massive mistake. I can't, Rosalie, I said. I'm sorry. The book says that what you give to your neighbor comes back to you 3 times, and if you do a spell and your intentions are, oh no, Rosalie's pretty face turned into a mask of rage. Don't you dare give me that rule of 3 crap. You know as well as I do that that doesn't apply to witches like me. I knew no such thing. All I knew was that the bell had long since rung, and at the sound of it, a first year I hadn't even realized was in the restroom with us had burst from one of the stalls. After giving Rosalie and me a wide-eyed glance, flew out the door and didn't even pause to wash her hands. That's how much she didn't want to engender Rosalie's wrath. I should have followed her, because now all of that wrath was focused on me. You want to worry about my intentions? Rosalie was breathing hard as she stared at me. And then worry about what I intend to do if you don't give me that book today. I don't know what I expected her to do to me. Hex me, maybe, put a curse on me, but certainly not what she did, which was glance toward the restroom ceiling tiles, and a second later, she raised her arm and caused them to unleash a torrent of rain on me. Of course, it wasn't really raining indoors. What Rosalie had done was set off the fire sprinklers. But as far as I could tell, she hadn't done it by lighting anything on fire. She had done it with her mind, and by muttering a short incantation, none of the words of which I managed to catch. I was too busy ducking to avoid the deluge of water and reevaluating my position on giving her Goody Fletcher's book. Rosalie, I cried from beneath the blanket of sinks where I'd gone to crouch to avoid getting soaked. It wasn't helping, by the way. We're both witches. We should be working together, not against one another. Rosalie, who was standing in the alcove by the doorway where the sprinklers didn't reach, and so hadn't got a drop of water on her, looked down at me pitilessly. Yeah, nice try, but only one of us is a real witch, and even worse for you, I'm a storm witch, and I'm going to keep making it storm until you give me the book. All right. I couldn't believe the words were coming out of my mouth, but I was freezing cold, soaking wet, and scrunched under a bank of bathroom sinks. What else was I going to say? You can have the book. Just make the water stop. As suddenly as the cascade of water had started, it stopped, and Rosalie was all sweetness and light again. There, she said, smiling. That wasn't so hard, was it? I rose cautiously from beneath the sinks. The floor and the stalls were soaked, and so was I. Where did you learn to do that? I asked in wonder. From my grandmother, Rosalie said, patting her perfectly straight hair. Now, when can you drop off the book? I need it soon. I want Billy to take me out for Valentine's Day. Of course she did. About that, I can't give you the whole book, but I can give you the spell that I used on Billy. I added quickly when I saw the rage rush back to her pretty face. What? You don't have to pay me for it. You can have it for free, and then you can use it on Billy and he'll be yours. It went against everything I thought was right, but it was the only way that I could think to get Rosalie and Billy out of my life, and also not to get drowned in my own school. That's what you want, isn't it? But before Rosalie could reply, the door to the girls' room had opened and Dr. Fields, our guidance counselor, poked her head in and looked around in surprise. What on earth is all the commotion going on here? Why is it so wet? I don't know, Dr. Fields. Rosalie's cold blue eyes were like twin icicles. I just walked in. I thought I smelled smoke, though. Dr. Fields frowned. Jessica Gold. Were you smoking in the girls' room? What? No! Well, that's the only reason the sprinklers would have gone off. Come with me to my office, please. Your office? I couldn't believe this was happening. Up until a few months ago, I'd been a good girl. I'd never done anything wrong in my life, and now look what was happening to me. Yes, Dr. Fields. I could feel Rosalie's icicle blue gaze stabbing holes into my back as I left. But I didn't care anymore what happened between her and Billy. I'd keep my word and get her that spell. What she did with it was her problem. Dun, dun, dun! Wild. Crazy times. Crazy, crazy times. How is everyone doing? Rosalie is trouble. All right, the book is amazing. I'm only reading just those 2 chapters today because I have a metric ton of work to do today, like a ton, including mailing out a bunch of y'all's, what do you call them? Slime of the Months. I will be on later, most likely in like the mid-afternoon to make slime. So expect that. What else? I gotta take stuff to the post office first because I have no more bins. My bins are full from everything I packed up last night, so I gotta empty the bins in order to be able to send more packages. But I will do that. And oh no, Grace, I'm sorry, hun. I'm sorry. But yeah. Anyway, I will see you all later today.